BYU freshman wing AJ Dybantsa is someone who is likely to be the first overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft, and he's someone who has been on my radar for quite some time. As a personal anecdote, when I was an assistant coach for a high school team, we were set to play AJ Dybantsa's school, St. Sebastian's, when he was in 8th grade, and I remember scouting him, being impressed by his body of work as the ranked #1 8th grader in the country. And throughout that time, it's been even more impressive how he's been able to sustain that ranking and the success as he joined BYU and is inevitably going to enter the NBA now. And what's extremely impressive about AJ Dybantsa first and foremost is his frame. He measures in at 6'9", 210 pounds, with a 7-foot wingspan and an 8'10" standing reach. And his athleticism is all the more impressive considering that he has a 42-inch max vertical. And since he's been this blue chip prospect since he's been in 8th grade, the fact that he's only 19 years old and has sustained this success shows to me that one, he cares a ton. We already know about his family and how much effort they've put into him as a prospect. And two, the fact that he likely will be willing to work hard to be able to improve. So I would say in terms of all of the players in the draft, he is the most projectable player to be a #1 scoring option on a good team at the next level, since he's a big wing who goes for his own shot. And at BYU this past season, he was able to put together an impressive scoring season with 25.5 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, while shooting 51% from the field, 33 from 3, and 77.5% from the line. All that being said, he also posted impressive defensive stats as well, and while it may be a little bit something of an area for improvement when it comes to effort that we'll talk about later, he did average a steal per game, and we'll get into more of why exactly those stats aren't too high, but nonetheless, his 25.5 points per game led the conference and the entire NCAA Division I. And so AJ Dybantsa projects to be someone who has elite scoring talent, and I would not be surprised if he goes first overall in this upcoming draft. So like I said in the intro, AJ Dybantsa's most projectable skill is his scoring, and his motion of going into scoring moves is extremely fluid, and he's someone who has great court awareness. Not only that, but you can see that he clearly has great moves, such as his turnaround jumper, and he truly is a go-to mid-range scorer. And while you would like to see him kind of fix up the mid-range a little more, so with someone who had such volume and a load to carry with a relatively talentless BYU squad, this responsibility he held led him to hunt the shots that he could hit the most easily. And that's something you see with the guys like Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant at the next level, who, although it's not the most efficient shot, it's efficient for them, and it's something that they can hit quite easily. Definitely a go-to ball handler as well, and not only is his handle steady, but I would also consider it reliable. And you can tell that it's reliable because he was in the 84th percentile for offensive efficiency, and that is extremely impressive thinking about the sheer load and volume of shots he carried. As a pick-and-roll ball handler, he was in the 87th percentile as well, and in the 94th percentile for post-up, which once again, as I've been mentioning with other prospects in this draft, I love the versatility for him as an offensive player, and he's really strong as well this early in his career. And so with a handle that's steady and reliable, you can tell that his post game and his pick and roll game is something that will be sustainable. He can also be a screener as well, where he can come off of those screens into a pop and get into isolation sets. And so, especially since BYU lacked the offensive firepower, they kind of just let him go to work. And you can see it's a lot more effective than a guy like Caleb Wilson, for example, in that isolation scoring. So when we're ranking prospects or considering how it projects, you can expect AJ Dybantsa to be a better isolation scorer than Caleb Wilson. Not only that, but he's great at step-throughs, and his jump shot form looks great as well, especially when he can throw that pump fake and drive down the lane. His 42-inch vertical makes him a hyper athlete with serious poster potential if he wants to use his strength, but also if he wants to use his athleticism for acrobatics. He's great at mid-air adjustments as well. He's also big enough to just rise above defenders for baskets if they're looking to draw a charge or contest without fouling. And he has very long strides down the lane as well, which means that he can really keep his pivot foot without picking up the ball. And that means he can get into things like Euros and slow steps that are very important in today's NBA, where that's an extremely common action. So for AJ Dybantsa, given the sheer amount of things he can do on the offensive end by himself without having to have others create for him, I'm very confident saying he is one of the highest ceilings for an offensive player at the next level. And I'd be interested to see where he falls on draft night, because it depends honestly what NBA teams will allow him to do. But nonetheless, I think regardless of where he goes, he will be a top tier scorer, probably out the gates in the NBA, and most likely one of the highest, if not the highest scoring rookies in his first season.
A little bit strong, and here come the Cougars. Dybantsa puts it home.
When they were at Arkansas State and then North Texas.
Dula Ahmed checks into the game. Didn't play in a K-State game. Dybantsa coming off that 40-point performance. And AJ so far with 8. Make it 10. Dominic Diamante making his presence felt. Dybantsa inside lane. Rob Wright gives to Dybantsa. Shake and bake inside bucket. Whoa. Seconds remaining in the first half. And that one taken away. Dybantsa has it. Dybantsa into the open card. And one. Big guys to a different standard than the little guys.
Well, because the big guys are bigger than me, and I never was big. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
Of course not.
Dybantsa and one. AJ.
So I would say that as a playmaker, although he did average 3.7 assists per game, it's largely around the gravity that he creates as opposed to a sheer knack and talent for playmaking. Now, I wouldn't say that he's an absolute zero, kind of like what Caleb Wilson was in isolation, because AJ Dybantsa keeps his head on a swivel and is aware of when teammates might have open opportunities. He throws a lot of slot-to-slot passes, and since he has a great handle, it can be the engine of an offense. And he doesn't seem to hold the ball to an insane degree as well, and he will hit an open roller when attention's drawn to him. He'll do a lot of top downs and cross-court passes, but he does love the one-handed wraparound pass across the perimeter, whether it's on the baseline or it's from slot to slot, which is kind of a move that Curry pioneered. And while Curry definitely did it, and it was something that was quite effective, with AJ Dybantsa, I'm a little concerned because, well, for one, he's a wing and not a guard like Curry is, and inevitably doesn't have that playmaking potential. But two, he's going to be a rookie. And as you can see in the turnover clips, these TOs come from the risky passes that he likes to throw, whether it's an ill-timed dump off or hitting a cutter, or the lob is just simply not on target, or his one-arm pass just flies into the hands of the other defender. It's something that he's going to have to keep in mind as someone who might project to be a more heliocentric player than others, which is the fact that teams will scheme around him, especially in the NBA, when they'll know that he's going to be looking for these passes out of the double team, and based on his tendencies, they might expect him to throw these types of passes. So for AJ Dybantsa, I'm not too worried and I'm not too excited in either direction for his playmaking, but I think the things he has to work on are both apparent and fixable.
Got to find something easy in transition. Everything's a struggle in the half court.
Dybantsa.
There it is. Now the player of the game. One tie. Where lead changes. Texas' biggest lead was 6. Vaskovich with the rebound. Thought that 3 was going up, but not this time. And
big nights from every single player. Had to beat NC State 68-66 on Tuesday just to have the opportunity to come here. What's going on? He is having trouble from the free throw line in this second half. Misses another one. 4-point game. Dybantsa gives it up on the baseline to Wright. He dribbles into traffic, and now AJ going to go to work, or try to. They double team him, and he threw it away.
Finally back on track, Houston team, after a rare 3-game losing streak late in the season.
Uzan on Dybantsa. Shot clock is under 10. Dybantsa spins, lost the handle. Uzan takes it away.
So AJ Dybantsa definitely benefits from having positional size as a defender, but nonetheless, I think one thing I'd like to see him improve upon is his effort. And of course, since he carried such an offensive load at BYU, I wonder if his lack of effort on the defensive end simply had to do with his fatigue. Now, as a defender, I am excited by his strips on solo fast breaks. That's what it creates, at least. And although he kind of does stand around a lot and kind of walks around as more of an observational defender as opposed to an actual effortful defender, I would give him decent instincts as a helper. And I think his athleticism, more often than not, is one thing that helps him. And it allows him to have good timing on things like chase down blocks, since he can rise up for contests when he can afford to wait for his defender. And he is a patient defender as well. I wouldn't say he's the biggest gambler. And as opposed to Caleb Wilson, I do appreciate his knack for grabbing and going, especially since he is an effective ball handler. But like I said, on the defensive end, I can see him getting lost and lazy, and I assume the hope is that he gets more effortful for teams, and I'm sure they'll coach him into it. And, not to nitpick, but I'd like to see him get into a defensive stance more as well, because too often he's standing straight up with his arms down, but that could also once again relate to fatigue. But for AJ Dybantsa, because he's so large and so athletic, I think his defense can all but improve at the next level, especially when he's trying to be in winning situations where he's not necessarily the only guy who can create his own shot. Since BYU, like I've been saying, didn't quite have the offensive firepower, the load that he carried likely is to affect the rest of his game when it comes to the playmaking and the defending. So we'll see if he falls to the Wizards, for example. Having a supplementary player like Trae Young, who's anticipated to come back, will certainly help him lock in on the defensive end, as well as the fact that Washington's likely looking to compete. I would be interested to see what that turns out for him.
Rebound is a career high for Bogatitis, his 12th. And now here he is offensively. Left hand rejected his goaltending.
In the first half, he's gotten a little more liberal with that with Fleming. So we'll see if Fleming stays out the last 9 minutes.
Tugler, nasty screen, sharp, off balance. That shot is short, offensive rebound.
So they had to change that as well. His communication will be challenged as well leading in this game. He's wearing a mouth guard, so I spoke with AJ Dybantsa, and he said his communication level has to pick up, making sure that everybody is on the right page, guys.
Lorian from deep, off the mark. Right.
Because it was a low clock, under 2 seconds.
Floyd missed everything. Obioha.
Is that the officials then believe he's crying wolf, so when he does get fouled, they're not going to call it. And that's nitpicking.
Inside McGriff, high arcing shot. Dybantsa.
It's beautiful.
5-point game, under 14 to go second half. Johnson, little ball fake, puts it on the floor.
This guy can make shots. We know that in big moments. Ramon Mark. That one does not go. Tipped out.
So in general, I'm very excited about what AJ Dybantsa can contribute to an NBA roster, and I definitely think he's worthy of a first overall pick. Considering where he might fall in relation to guys like Caleb Wilson, Darren Peterson, and Cameron Boozer, I'm unsure of where I would have him ranked yet. And especially in a draft like this, I would say it's a lot more situational than absolute. I would not be shocked if a team takes Boozer or Darren Peterson over him the first or second overall selection, depending on how they see him integrating into the team. And I would say the top three are a lot more fluid for me than in years past. For example, I think Cooper Flagg would have gone number one no matter who the team was last year, and I wouldn't say that's the same for Dybantsa. This year reminds me a lot more of the Paolo Banchero, Jabari Smith Jr., and Chet Holmgren year, in which all three are relatively interchangeable depending on what a team values and thinks about this player. So, like I said, I'm very excited about the promise AJ Dybantsa has. For his ceiling, I would give him an MVP candidate because if it all works out, I'm not sure how a 6'10 go-to scorer is someone that can't become an MVP candidate. For his floor, I have non-winning starter simply because of the fact that if the defense doesn't come around and neither does the playmaking, I could see him leading poor teams to perhaps an 8th or 7th seed, but if he's the feature guy at his worst, I'm not sure how much that team wins. In average projection, I have all-star. There are only 3 players in this class I'm going to give that to, and that's Peterson and Boozer, but I truly think that if he stays the course, he should be an all-star type of player who has a very successful career. And so with that being said, I think fans can be quite excited about AJ Dybantsa, and personally, I think his best fit is the Washington Wizards.